I'm Daniel Blackman,
I'm Eric Cohen.
and welcome to Bluetopsy this week. A lot going on. Martyr vote today.
Yeah, that is a big deal today. We've talked about it on the show a bunch.
Well, there's a sunny day outside right now. 400 is doing what it usually does, but no excuses for anyone out there that's voting. By the time this show airs, we should know the results, and it definitely will be a topic of interest on our next show.
Well, just to prove why mass transit is so important, as I was telling you before the show, our brand new car was dead in the parking lot yesterday, so it would have been nice to have had Marta by us.
That sucks, man. You kind of shaking me up on the electric vehicle thing, man. I don't want to be stuck with the electric plug. But our guest today, ironically, if we had transit doing what it's supposed to be doing, and if we had access to it, if the 7th Congressional District, Forsyth County, Gwinnett, got behind this amazing initiative to help transportation, to help us be more mobile, from Melissa Klink talking about affordable housing and transportation to Bianca, to our good friend that came on last week, Brenda Lopez, to our guest today, Mr. Michael Owens. We already know how important it is. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you. Happy to be here.
We got like a celebrity rock star in the studio today, man.
I know that for those that don't know, Michael's been on national stuff, unlike us, so it's rather impressive.
I know, man. But the fun thing is, Michael and I go back a little bit. We have a relationship between my brother-in-law and Michael and Georgia Tech, right?
Georgia Tech.
That's right.
Before Georgia Tech.
And
actually.
Basketball, right?
Basketball. We me and your brother-in-law played on the same basketball team.
Oh,
Took
man.
down a championship or two back in the day.
Man, hustling, man. Well, look,
I
Michael.
won't say how long ago that was, though. It's been a little while.
It's been a while, man, but I can honestly say from the time we started this show, our goal was to get not only thought leaders, but people that we admire, people that we respect, and your name has come up on more than one occasion. So we want to thank you from Jason Carter, our first show.
That's right.
All the way to Michael Owens today. And we just want to open up by, you're the former chairman, if I'm not mistaken. You had to step down from Cobb County, or are you still the chairman?
I am still the chairman for about 4 more days.
4 more days.
Yeah.
Wow. So
Yeah.
we probably have like the last exclusive interview as interviewing the chairman of the Cobb County Democratic Party.
You probably do.
Oh,
I
man.
think so.
Special.
I'm going to take these last few days and kind of soak it in, make sure I'm
Bluetopsy
doing
making history.
the right administrative things I need to do. But I'm already starting to reflect a little bit. There was a piece that came out last week that really kind of summed up my time as the chair of the Democratic Party in Cobb County, and it's been an amazing ride. It really has.
Well, I want to, just jump into the pool head first. 2016, amazing year for Democrats. We did not get the result we wanted in the White House, but we saw some really amazing contested races. We saw Cobb County go for Hillary Clinton. We are seeing continual progress in that specific area, and we now have a congressional representative in Lucy McBath. Can you kind of talk to us a little bit about what that journey has been like? We're not that far removed from 2016, but I want to commend you. I want to commend your executive committee, and I want to commend the good Democrats in Cobb County for all the work you've done. And what was that journey like?
I appreciate it. It's the journey's been a whirlwind. It was, to say the least. I came on the executive board back in 2015, actually.
Wow.
End of 2015, I think. I was a second vice chair at the time. And, our strategic work really started in earnest then. We were still a relatively small committee certainly by today's standard, a very small committee for at least what Cobb has become. But we had started the goal that we were going to reach out to Democrats across the county. Cobb County historically has had its blue section, which was mainly the South Cobb area, Austell, Mableton.
And my mother lives in Austell.
Parts of Powder Springs.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of the rest of the county, completely red, blood red. So, I think we made the effort starting in late 15, early 16, that we were going to go out and actually try to start exercising, our fundamental get out the vote strategy across the county. And a lot of things, people ask me what happened. I remember the day after the election, people were shock and awe across the county. I guess the best way to say it, Democrats, Republicans alike, because as you mentioned, Daniel, Hillary Clinton came out 6,800 votes approximately over Donald Trump, and
good for Cobb.
And I tell people it's the first time in 40 years that a Democrat had actually held up the top of the ticket in Cobb. As a matter of fact, it was since President Jimmy Carter.
Wow.
1976 was the last time that Cobb County had a presidential candidate that won out from the Democratic Party. So that obviously, was a huge shock. But it started with the testament of what was to become.
Yeah.
Right? I can't say it's alone. There are people inside the party. There's people as well as outside the party. And we can't talk about that victory without talking about the rise of the grassroots that started basically at the same time. That was when, now is what people call the grassroots, the upstarts. Some folks have said the women's suburban movement,
the suburban samurais, man.
Kind of took the whole. Yeah, don't call them soccer moms, call them samurais.
No, samurais,
right?
man.
And I can still remember that first organized external outpour of support for Hillary Clinton, in East Cobb. Heart of the blue of blue in Cobb County. I mean, red is of red in Cobb County. I'm sorry. And those women were there. I'm proud and happy that I happened to get a call and they were asking some logistical questions. And they said, why don't you come on out? And I was like, I'll be there. So out there on that first day, and we really haven't looked back since, right? I mean, I came to be chair approximately 2 weeks after the election.
Wow.
So again, we were elated that Hillary won, and there were lots of talk about Cobb going blue, but I'll tell you that's something that I never said in 16. And it's basically because I looked down ballot from that. So as great as it was that we carried Senator Clinton for that victory, every down ballot race that was competitive, we did not win any of them.
Wow.
So you kind of work with what you have and embellish that, but at the same time, you've got to be true, and that was a position I took. We got to be true with ourselves and see exactly where we are. So that was kind of what was to come, but I knew we had a lot of work kind of to do after that. So that 2 weeks later, me becoming chair, coming in with a completely different new vision as to where we're going to take this party and what we're going to do, and I'll go into a little bit very simple about that was, man, we just need to turn the curve on what county parties were capable of doing in the state.
That's right.
It's as simple as that. And I felt that there was so much more that we could do to be influential, and to really be the cornerstone, the bedrock of the Democratic Party in the state starts with our county committees.
Well, I got to stop you right there because you kind of brushed through, this example that you're set for counties around the state. With the exception of Cobb, you got 158 other counties in the state of Georgia, right?
Yes.
So to our friends in Rabun County and in Dahlonega up there in Lumpkin County and White County, we're in a part of the state where we are blue dots in oceans of deep red.
Sure.
And
blood
so
red.
for us, blood red, right? I'll take that one. But for us, what has been so critical is how do we create those pipelines? Because we saw what Jon Ossoff did. Jon Ossoff, who you recently met with and had a conversation with, has been not only continued to be active, but Jon's campaign not only shined a national eye on the state of Georgia and the 6th congressional district, but Jon helped to elevate where we are now, right? And we've got great candidates like Jon, like Lucy, all over the state and right here in North Georgia. How can we create pipelines to the blueprint and the example that you all set so that other counties that are not doing as well can begin to replicate those results?
Sure. One of the things that I've done was get on the road myself.
Yeah.
I've been to some of those counties, and I've been to Chatham County. I've been to Tift County, I've been to Qualcomm County. So part of it is getting around to those areas and literally leading by example. But I kind of mentioned it, right? Making sure that you just break the mold. And what I tell a lot of county parties is don't wait for the state party. Don't wait for the national party. There's capabilities and functions that you have that you can kind of take off. You mentioned about the Jon Ossoff race and what happened. What's more widely known now, but I don't know if you guys have heard the 6th District Task Force, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that 6th District Task Force, we actually started that before Jon Ossoff even got in the election.
Wow.
Right? And the goal around that was this melding between the grassroots and the party. So the way I looked at it was this. We had tons of energy on the ground by way of the grassroots, who were many new to electoral politics, campaigning, grassroots activity. And what we were able to do was kind of marry the two. We were able to marry, the access and the ability of the county parties, and I said county parties because in these districts that cover more than one county,
right,
you have to work with your other county committees within that district because far too often as county committee members, we only worry about what's going on with our county. And it only works in those races that are confined to those county limits. Once it goes across those county limits, we need to make sure we're reaching out to those other county parties as well and make sure they're staying in the mix. But, what are those things we can do? We can make sure that we're taking a very aggressive look at how we're raising funds, how and who we're reaching out to. I've had this conversation just as early as today. I said one of the first things we started doing was reaching out to voters in those historically red districts.
That's right.
We don't change our message. Our message is true. We just need to let people know. And one thing I constantly say is that there's no Democrat that's on an island. I don't care if we talk about how blood red these districts are. I guarantee you, in your neighborhood, in your school, in your place of worship, there's someone whose policies and passions and principles align with yours. The simple thing is a matter of finding those people.
I just literally last night, Eric, was invited, where the airstrip is here in Forsyth County, to a meeting of Democrats that have a climate organizing group that I have never heard of. I've lived in Forsyth County since 2012, and there were about 15 to 20 Democrats that were in there building the strategy on getting behind the Green New Deal, on environmental policies, on reaching out to conservatives. So I agree with you, man, and thanks for the correction, brother.
So I just want to say this for the listeners. We have people that are outside of Metro Atlanta, outside of the state. Story we've told before is, about our families and whatever. My wife is originally from Austell. When I first met her, it was so conservative, so Confederate flag waving. She literally delayed, it was months going to visit her parents' house because she's like, I don't want you to see what this is like. What I want to make the point of is it has changed so much. It's just akin to Gwinnett County, what we're trying to do here in Forsyth. These counties are changing, and we have to go and find these people and activate them. Just like you're saying, they're there.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I can relate directly to that story.
By the way, Michael pulled up in a pickup truck today, and I thought that was the realest way to come to Bluetopsy today. So thank you for pulling up on us.
Dodge Ram. Get a sponsorship out of that. That was a point that we had to make over and over again, was reaching out to people who we may not on the surface, on the cover, think that are Democrats, right? I mean, so if someone drives a full drive pickup, you may put them in a certain box. But what we realized is that once we got people into environments where they were ready to come out of their shell a little bit, look, I mean, in some of those same areas you're talking about, putting out a Democratic yard sign was just something you did not do.
Like here,
you just would not do that. But once folks started doing that, what they realized was the lady across the street from them, right? Yep. She's like, oh man, I didn't know. I didn't know you was a Luther McBath supporter. Yep. So we just started seeing those, and we did another thing too, where we went on a road show. Prior to me coming on chair, the layout was rather simple, right? We had a once a month meeting at Marietta Square. That is the center, basically, of Cobb County. Yep. And if you wanted to learn or hear anything about the Cobb County Democratic Committee, that's where you came. My approach is slightly different. If we are truly going to activate and engage people from all across the county, guess what? We got to go all across the county.
Say it again, man.
You have to get out to where your voters are, to get to where the people are, especially when trying to engage in new communities. It's not simply good enough to ask them to come to you, right? You have to get out to them. However, I will say we did amp up from a social media standpoint, every type of communication to really let people know that we're here and what we're about. Part of the talking about getting around to different counties, we basically instituted, which is basically a roadshow, right? I call them community engagement meetings.
Yeah.
And these were literally meetings, not in lieu of our monthly meetings, but in addition to our monthly meetings, where we were going to different places throughout the county that I don't think Democrats have ever really gone to, at least in an organized fashion. We went to Ackworth. We went to Ackworth, Georgia.
That's going towards Kennesaw, right?
So towards past Kennesaw, near the border. Almost in Tennessee, and I'll admit, didn't know a soul in Ackworth. We didn't even know where to hold a meeting at.
Yeah.
And we found a public community space to have it in. We got on social media. We activated some folks, and I can tell you, we had 120 people show up on a cold Tuesday night.
That's pretty good.
To hear about what the Cobb County Democrats were like. And a lady told me, almost in tears, that she was amazed and surprised because the Democratic Party had never, ever, ever came to Ackworth.
Well, let me say this, man, because I don't think we've done justice in the way in which people that don't know you, I want to share this with you. And I've taken my notes on someone that has come in here and has worked really hard. But since taking over his chair, just some of the accomplishments. State Senator Jen Jordan took the seat vacated by the former Senator Hunter Hill, which was a Republican out of Smyrna. We saw that in the special election. 2018, we saw Mary Frances Williams, Democrat in Marietta. She defeated Representative Sam Teasley, who was a Republican out of Marietta, and Representative Eric Allen, our good friend, Democrat in Smyrna, won the seat previously held by Representative Rich Gulick, which was a Republican out of Smyrna, and he actually chose not to run again, which speaks a lot of volumes about the leadership. All incumbent Democrats in the legislature representing Cobb were reelected in 2018, which, coupled with the 3 red and blue flips, gave Democrats the majority in Cobb legislative delegation for the first time in decades. Then Democrats Jaha Howard and Charissa Davis. Sharice Davis were both elected to the Cobb School Board. We saw Lucy McBath. I mean, we can go on and on and on and on, and we know that Lucy will face some opposition. We know they're going to be coming for her. But I just got to thank you. I've got to thank everyone from Cobb County listening that helped to make these things possible. We couldn't be happier. And to step up and to see that kind of work and that kind of leadership, it speaks volumes. And we are working hard in Forsyth. We're working hard in Gwinnett. And I know folks all over this state are working hard the same way to make that happen. So great examples, ladies and gentlemen. Let's continue to follow what they're doing.
All right, so let's go to go.
Yeah, I was going to say. I mean, that's an impressive list. We definitely have had a good run.
Yeah.
We made a concerted effort to get involved and engaged at every single level. And I'll even throw in the fact of there's a race that you didn't mention there. Technically, it's a nonpartisan race.
Yeah.
But Miss Maryline Blackburn, in essence, flipped a seat for the Smyrna City School Council. Smyrna City Council, and that's impressive because she became the first person of color ever to hold a seat in the Smyrna City Council. And
wow.
that city's been incorporated in 1872.
Wow.
1872. So that was a concerted effort we made as well, that we were going to play in nonpartisan races as well. So if you look at, from city council seats to school board, state rep, state senate, and then ultimately Lucy McBath getting elected in a congressional level, I am still elated that we have been able to literally work on every different level of government and elect Democrats while I was chair.
And that's what we're trying to focus on here in Forsyth and everybody else, Gwinnett, knowing local level first, bottom up. That's what creates this momentum. For 2018, since you have a lot of experience in this realm, what are some of your takeaways from what worked right and what didn't work right in the state of Georgia?
What worked right was outside of the party, there's levels of activity that we've never seen before, right? There's level of engagement, particularly in the Democratic Party or in the Democratic side of the House. Anyone who's wants to label themselves as progressives or liberals or Democrats, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Being left of center, we've seen turnout that we've never seen before, and that's one thing that I can say is good. But then also it's an area that we can continue to expand on.
Right.
By yards and miles. The Democratic Party of Georgia still has room to be able to embrace those folks and bring them in, so we have a true unity right end to end when it comes to that. So I think that was something that we done really, really good, was be able to reach out those grassroots and engage a lot of those people and bring them in. Things that did not go really well. I'll also say that the fact of the amazing number of women that we had running this past election cycle as well.
That's right.
From Cobb and literally all over the state, as well as our statewide candidates was very well represented and very diverse.
Right.
So I think we got that right. We were able to give people across the state reasons to get engaged, all different types of people able to come to the table with candidates that were as diverse as Georgia truly is. I think that was a plus. If there's something we could have done better, hindsight is always 20/20. So I don't want to play that game. But I think some of the things that we saw early on was that the need that we had to get organized earlier and help out different parts of the state where they need it. Look, we can talk about being in a metro area, and we're good all day long.
That's right.
But we need to start exporting our own talent to parts around the state where people need it. I've worked with county committees where, they need a lot of help, and it's not necessarily on them. And I'm not going to put this on the county committees or those chairs, because we have a lot of counties that don't even have county committees.
That's right.
Okay, but there are Democratic voters in those areas. So what I think we need to do, and I've mentioned this before, is that Georgia is not going to turn blue simply by what we do inside 285.
That's right.
Right.
We
have to export that talent. Strategy. We have to get out to counties and county committees outside of the metro area and engage them, share best practices, share resources, and get them engaged and involved as well.
The critical thing I want to mention, you have painted a really great picture of what I'd like to call singles and doubles, right? Because a lot of times for Democrats, the analogy I like to give is we like to go for the home runs, the governor, the president, the secretary of state. But you painted a really great picture of how Cobb County has been able to win from the school board to literally House and state representative seats. My question for you is kind of, flirting with 2020. Since I've been a Democrat in Georgia, the majority of things that we have seen from a presidential standpoint has been inside the perimeter, exactly what you just said. But this year, it began to get different, right? And last year, we saw Oprah come into Cobb County, and she hosted Stacey Abrams there, which I thought that was really exciting. Yes. But most people would still argue, well, hey, that's still kind of the perimeter, right? Yeah. But then we saw Elizabeth Warren come into Gwinnett County. What I am beginning to see, Eric, is that we're starting to see this slow trickle of an expansion beyond the borders of Metro Atlanta. How important is it for presidential nominees, for national figures to visit the rest of our state? And as we all know, July 13th to the 16th, 2020, the Democratic National Convention will be in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And we all know in this room that was intentional, right? Mm-hmm. How important is it when someone steps foot into the state of Georgia for them to be able to understand that there are 159 counties in this state, and while we can't visit all of them, making sure they're included in the conversation is critical? Yeah,
I think it's this is campaigning, so it is about numbers. So yeah. I can't, you can't fault any campaign for going where the numbers are. Yeah. Right. And so when you mentioned Cobb and Gwinnett, those are two key counties. We were. Cobb County was featured on Meet the Press, right, last week, and that is a true testament. NBC is running national stories about what we're doing. Gwinnett's getting that same attention. I think next you're going to see a county like Henry County, which is turning very fast. Newton County,
right by Rockdale.
So what's happening is really the metro area is expanding. Right, is what's happening. So it's still kind of following the same paradigm of they're going where the votes are. I would like to see a presidential candidate go to Richmond County. Yeah. Right? Yeah. I would like to see one go down to Fort Valley. Yeah. Right? Go to Valdosta. That's right. Lowndes County. Truly get outside of the metro area, because that will have a ripple, a wave effect that will go all through South Georgia, Southwest Georgia, or go up to Rome, and truly activate other areas and bring focus in on them.
And I have to say to you, and some of our listeners might not like it, but the reality is that is exactly what we are seeing Republicans do. That's right. We've seen Donald Trump in Macon. We've seen Trump in Valdosta. We've seen him recruit talent like Nick Ayers. We don't have to agree with the guy, but we're starting to see this pull, and we know that we've got just as much talent on the Democratic side, if not more, than the Republicans on the other side. So I think, to your point, I'd love to see him in Macon and Fort Valley and all these other areas. I just would hope that we embrace it, because I think we're losing on the ground game. Have we made up a lot of space? Of course we have. But I think we have to do a better job as Democrats in understanding that there are areas in this state, regardless of if a presidential candidate comes and visits, we've got to make sure that we're showing a presence and showing our leadership in these areas.
I agree, but I don't think we're losing the ground game. Okay. Right. I don't think I think we have an inherent ground. I think we have an inherent advantage when it comes to the ground game, and as simple as this is that our message can be questioned at times because we're Democrats, and we love to be Democrats, and we love to be smart, and we love to be intelligent. We love to work on it at the tip of the spear, right? Mm-hmm. But we also understand that voters a lot of times are visceral. right? It's much further down. Republicans talk about, your basic needs, right? Your shelter, your security, your food, your job,
and your fear.
Exactly. Right?
That's the top one on the list.
Your fear.
If you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? I mean, Republicans really focus on that bottom. But what I can tell you is that I think we still have the advantage because our policies and our principles and our values, what we stand for, is resonating, and it continues to resonate. And from a pure campaign standpoint, Democrats will roll their sleeves and get out there and knock on those doors and pound that pavement. Republicans have a much harder time at doing that, right? I mean, they're much more about mailers, getting on the radio.
And sham town halls, Eric.
Yes.
Oh yes, we had that this past week.
And getting together, tiki torches or not.
Oh
but,
my gosh.
Just getting together. So I think we and this movement we have now, coupled with the grassroots, I cannot say how important that is. Right, and it doesn't matter to me about how left you are or how moderate you are, and I think that's probably the last piece as well. Is that, while I was chair, I remember one of the first meetings I had, there was someone who came to me, and I remember he was wearing a Bernie shirt, and he literally asked me. He said, Michael, I enjoyed the meeting. I think it was great. He goes, but, I just want to ask, is it okay if I'm here? I was blown away. I was literally blown away. Yes, is it okay that he's here? Remember, Hillary had just won. In Cobb County, and we were washing pantsuits, and everything was at that point in time really kind of a little contentious.
Mm-hmm.
But I made it clear then that no matter where you were at on that spectrum of blue, you were still blue.
That's right.
And it did not matter from that standpoint.
But how come that has not trickled? Because I was Bernie's political director. We still see to this day this dissension, and I feel that let's just talk about it. I mean, the reality is that we saw a very hurtful period that we had to all own. Many people licked their wounds when I stepped down from being, after the primary in 2016, from being Bernie's political director. I immediately went and rolled up my sleeves for Hillary.
Yep.
A lot of people didn't do that because obviously they were hurt. A lot of things happened. But why has it taken us 2 years to still get over it? Because to be honest with you, to just be totally frank, a lot of the stuff we talked about in 2016 in Bernie's campaign that wasn't accepted is now the norm on the Democrats. It's the platform, right?
Yeah.
So, but however, anytime you say Bernie in a room, people cringe, right? And it's unfortunate, but that's just what we're seeing. Now, granted, I have not made a decision on who I'm going to support this cycle. However, I think that to flirt with the types of things that divided us in 2016 and to not really address them head on could ultimately hurt us if we don't get a hold of it quickly.
I think you hit the nail on the head with the fact that the Democratic Party has shifted, and there's no doubt that it's shifted to the left, and it shifted towards the practices or the policies that Bernie was talking about at a time where it seemed to be too far left,
right?
Too far left, all the way to the point to where you had Stacey Abrams running 2 years later, and it got castigated with, remember, her being too extreme, too radical for Georgia. At the same time, you had Republicans adopting, I'm sure you guys remember the pre-existing conditions, and all of a sudden, every Republican in the land now supports pre-existing conditions. So what you find is that the party has shifted. Right, and the shift is going to come when you get an overwhelming preponderance of support on a particular issue or policy.
That's right.
We see that with everything. We don't have to go back too far to have the discussion around gay marriage and gay rights.
That's right.
Which now is what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, what was that ever an issue? But it really wasn't. It wasn't that long ago. So what you're explaining is how fast politics change once the public appetite for it comes, right? Republicans right now are gripping with the expansion of Medicaid because you've got a 70% approval rating, so they're trying to figure out what to do with it, but at the same time, not say it because that's going to be against their policy.
That's right.
So I think there's a dichotomy. The dichotomy around this is that the Democratic Party as a whole has shifted to the left. I think we've all acknowledged that. And yes, we are now even flirting with the further left when we talk about, universal health care. We talk about, affordable education, free college for all. we're continuing to shift there. The problem that you experienced, unfortunately, Daniel, and many others, people that I count as friends as well, that did support Bernie, they aren't given just credit and due for being part of that change and being part of that push that has now allowed these things to be accepted as norms, right? To be what we consider mainstream Democratic policies and principles now were only 2 years ago seen as rather fringe. But
very
now
much so.
Candidate after candidate that is coming out are adopting some of these same principles and some of these same platforms as their cornerstone. Right? Which never would have been done in the last presidential cycle. So, to that, I understand why there are people such as yourselves that are bruised because of it. But all I can say is that I realize that this is not the way that we're going to win in 2020. Right. And whatever angst, whatever issues that are still out there, man, we've got to squash those.
I agree.
We have got to squash those because I worked on the Hillary campaign. I was a director of veteran and military families for the metro area.
You served, right?
Yes, served 8 years in the Marine Corps.
Thank you for your service.
So you're welcome. So I was more than happy to kind of come on, work for Hillary as hard as I could. Prior to that, I was right down the middle. I was a party official. I felt the best thing in me to do was keep my integrity, right? And so I worked hard for both candidates. But after Hillary won, wasted no time rolling up my sleeves and getting out there.
That's right.
You're going to have to understand that with that party shift, there needs to be people, and I think it does need to be people that were not working for Bernie Sanders at the time to step forward to be like, come on, guys, right? Yeah. This is, Bernie's in this race again. He's not the only one talking about those issues we brought up before. Yeah. But to those folks, if you're still a Bernie supporter, keep supporting him. That's your guy. But after the election, we all have to come through, and I can only hope that party officials realize it and are much more understanding, I think, delicate of the situation, more inclusive, because a lot of times it's not about what you see or what you think. It's about how it's being projected onto others. Mm-hmm. So if others don't feel wanted, if that guy that was wearing the Bernie shirt did not feel welcome or wanted, we wouldn't have had those achievements you talked about earlier. Mm-hmm. I can attest to that, right? We needed every single Democrat, every single person that's seen themselves as any type of left of center person that wanted to get out and either vote, donate, knock on a door, write a postcard. We needed every single one of them. And that's what it's going to take in 2020 if we're going to have any kind of the success we had in 2018 and then to compile on top of that.
We got to work, man, get out of our feelings, right?
People should look at the Republicans and go, look at Reagan and Bush. They went at it, and then Bush became vice president. Everybody's like, oh, we love Reagan, we love Bush. The Republicans seem to squash it. They're like, okay, it's time to unite. Let's roll forward. I think we need to do more of that.
And I saw in 2008, to their respect, even though I think they may have had to hold their nose to do it, but Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama did come together, and they did make it work. Mm-hmm. And I think there was a lot of hurt and there was a lot of frustration, but we saw this reemerging of their unison together. So,
all right. So here's a personal type of question because we always talk about politics. Thing is, what got you into politics?
Oh, it has to go back the cornerstone of my military service. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I'm at least a third generation wartime vet that I know. So my initial things of getting into politics in foreign policy and in national security all had to do with the military. I think after I kind of got out of the military, I was continuing to look for ways to serve, kind of give back. That's really what kind of led me into policy. So, I'd work with organizations like the World Affairs Council, the Southern Center for International Study. So I was really a policy wonk. Right? My background is in IT and cybersecurity. So I'm the kind of guy that, I'm all about the policy underneath. I'm the guy, put me in the lab and let me work kind of thing. And had just carried on that trajectory, right? I thought, my purpose in politics was going to be, the guy who's actually writing the policies, the ones who are working at the think tanks, the director of the think tank. It definitely wasn't as chairman of the Democratic Party or, influential member of the Democratic Party of Georgia, someone who's going to be on, political commentating every week. That definitely was not in the cards for sure. I came up through the Young Dems, and like I said, I was really on the policy side, and a couple of folks had reached out to me and said, hey, why don't you come over and come to some of these Democratic meetings? And at the time, and it's still to this same thing to extent now, is that people in policy and people in politics don't necessarily work in the same circles. Right. So coming over into, I remember YDATL was actually the first political meeting, so to say, here in Georgia that I went to, and realizing, man, these are completely different group of folks that I don't know any of them, and everyone has that experience at one point in time where you walk in the room and you don't know anyone, and it's just a matter of networking at that point, and so then it's a matter of coming back until you find a way to get engaged, you find a way to get plugged in, and so I was living in Cobb County, but I was going to Atlanta events, and then it's kind of like, hey man, what you live in Cobb. Why aren't you engaged in some of the political activities going on in Cobb? So through a mutual friend, I got involved with the Young Dems in Cobb County, and then later on, I literally got asked to pick up a vacancy and serve as a second vice chair, and then one fateful one fateful day, I think I subbed in as to just carry on a regular monthly meeting. Because the chair was on vacation.
It sounds so familiar.
And after the meeting, literally a couple of people walked up to me and they were like, "We think we found our next chair." And I'm looking around me going, "Where?"
Oh my gosh! So
what we've talked about before. That's called "You've been voluntold." They're like, "There you are. You're the next chair." Yeah. We've been there.
It was interesting.
Well, look, man, you have all the ingredients of leadership. We've both said that we respect you and the work that you support in Cobb County. And I just have to ask you, man, I mean, your name's been floated out there on the congressional space, and we know that while there is a Democrat holding that seat in David Scott, there has been talk, and I'm just going off of what I've heard about you potentially putting your name in the hat. How important is it for you to continue your leadership? We all know that's listening. Eric and I know that your leadership, your integrity, your work doesn't end with you stepping down from the chairmanship. But I'll be honest with you, I would really love to see you continue, and I think that's a position that could use a lot of help and a lot of work and a lot of new progressive ideas. And so what are your thoughts on the feedback that I know you've heard? I'm not going to act like you haven't been asked or heard or pushed or shoved. But, I mean, on a serious note, what are your thoughts about considering pursuing that potential office, running for Congress?
Yeah, I'll be pretty transparent here. I mean, I have said before, it is something that I'm seriously considering. I think I have to. I think it's worth it. And yeah, people pushing. I think if lots of people had their way, I'd be out, with a T-shirt on right now, knocking on doors. But I want to be prudent with it. I want to give it the level of thought and care that it deserves. It is a huge undertaking, and one that I don't take lightly. But I'm immensely humbled by the people that's reached out to me and asked me about running. I mean, there's reports online. There's some stories that's already been written. I think
you've actually been recruited by a couple of media outlets already.
It seems I'm Googling myself every day, which I haven't done very often, but I'm starting to do it now just to see what new piece has gotten written. So I mean, with that said, Daniel, there's no way that I could not take a look at this, right? I mean, as I mentioned, my prior background in the Marine Corps, taught me some very fundamental values. I think one of those is that when you see an opportunity, when you see something that needs to be fixed, corrected, and you have the capacity to do it, you go do it. And that's been fundamental in my life. Yeah. That's ultimately why I did become the chair of the Democratic Party in Cobb County, because I had no doubt that I could fundamentally change not only Cobb County, but ultimately how county parties work around the state. So I look at the 13th Congressional District the same way. People know me quite a bit from the 6th Congressional District because a lot of work that I've done throughout the 6th with John Ossoff as well as Lucy McBeth. But I'm a resident of the 13th. Yeah. And I have been for years now. And, same way I spoke about earlier when I used to go to Young Democrats of Atlanta events living in Cobb, time may be for me to come back home to the
Yeah.
13th. I've done some great work up in the 6th, but you go back home.
Yeah.
So
Well, let me say this, man. I mean, we use a lot of quotes here, and you have my support. I don't think I have any titles, do I, Eric?
No.
No. So I mean, I support Michael Owens.
I can't say anything anymore.
Yeah,
I
so
have titles now, and they won't let me.
on behalf of Daniel Blackman, right? But no, I will say to you, Dr. King once said, the true measure of a man is not where he stands in times of comfort and convenience, is where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. You stood in 2016 when it wasn't comfortable nor convenient. You stood in 2018, and I believe whatever your next decision is, you will make us all proud. Our good friend Shirley Franklin used to say, if you make me mayor, I'll make you proud. And I know that whatever you do, Michael, and you will be back on the show, but I want to make sure whatever you do, you know that you have our support. And Eric, I don't know if you want to add anything else to the conversation, but I wanted to make sure I publicly said how proud we are of having leaders around the state, of being able to look at a Lucy McBath and a Stacey Abrams and a John Ossoff and all these great names, but then to also say, but then there are those others who might not be in the headlines as much that are really doing the work, and you deserve whatever comes next to you, and we do want to thank you for being a part of this journey.
I want to say that a lot of people don't understand when you get involved with local party politics, these are all volunteer positions. All of us that do this stuff, there's no paycheck, there's no compensation. It's your time and energy, and it takes a lot.
No, there's no doubt. I mean, whenever I won the election to become chair, November of 2016, I took the next 3 months off work.
Okay.
Literally. And I worked on redefining this county party from the ground up. Mm-hmm. Every document, our meetings, everything about it, I literally took 3 months off to build. I mean, I'm fortunate enough that I was able to do that. Mm-hmm. But that is a level of dedication, and not just from that, but the hours upon hours that we spend, right, as county committee members, chair, first vice chair, second, it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into doing what needs to be done in these volunteer roles. So, my dedication has remained true. And then, I wanted that to expand beyond Cobb County. We can't take with so much pleasure or admiration in what we're doing locally. We have to make sure that whatever we're doing, if it's working, man, we're getting it out there for everyone else to share.
Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Daniel Blackman. This is Bluetopsy.
I'm Eric Cohen.
And we want to thank you. If you are out there and you have been supporting transit, like what we're literally witnessing and waiting for in Gwinnett, fight for transit, especially in our rural areas. We know that access to transit leads to upward mobility. It leads to helping people get out of poverty. Transit allows us to do things that really, I think, bridge the gap between income inequality and the ability for families to, really provide for themselves. 1.9 million people in Georgia live at or below the poverty line. And while we do know that transit doesn't change everyone's lives, it makes it significantly easier for us to try and navigate through the challenges and barriers that exist. So I want to thank you for supporting Bluetopsy. Eric, let everybody know how they can follow us and how they can get in touch with us.
All right, we have a pretty new website. Go to bluetopsy.com. And that also has show notes and all types of information now. So that's our new home base. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Bluetopsy. Or you can also email us at bluetopsy@gmail.com.
And I totally forgot, Brother Michael, how do the people reach out to you? How can people continue to follow the work of Michael Owens?
I mean, Facebook's a good option. The biggest thing you do is get on Facebook, get on Instagram. It's Michael Owens. I could give you my Twitter hashtag. You're all going to laugh because
I thought you were about to say phone number, and I was about to fall out my chair, man.
I don't look. My phone number is not hard to find either. If you want to give me a call, I do accept all calls
with donations if he runs for Congress. My bad.
Whoa, you can reach me at my Twitter handle is Owens for Georgia 13. So it's OWENS.
That's an interesting Twitter.
I like that too. I love the handle, man.
Georgia 13. Find me on Facebook. Reach out. I'd love to be able to talk to anybody. I want to get some feedback. Let me know what you're thinking about politics around the metro area, around the state of Georgia, within the 13th district. I'll be more than happy to talk to you.
I'm Daniel Blackman.
I'm Eric Cohen.
Thank you for tuning in to Bluetopsy. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.